A woman walks through a busy supermarket. She reaches for a box of crackers. She looks at the label on the back. Her finger moves down the long list of words. She sees the word sugar near the top. She puts the box back and picks up a jar of pasta sauce. She looks at the label again. Sugar is there too. She finds it in the bread. She finds it in the salad dressing. It even appears in the salty snacks. Why is this sweet crystals in almost everything we eat? That small white grain would eventually create a global food system worth billions of dollars today. Most people think of sugar as a treat. We imagine a birthday cake or a candy bar. But sugar is much more than a dessert. It is a hidden force in the modern world. It is in our breakfast, our lunch, and our dinner. It hides under many different names. Some call it corn syrup. Others call it maltodextrin or fructose. But the result is the same. Our taste buds have changed over time. Our bodies have adapted to a new kind of diet. How did a rare luxury become a daily necessity? Who started this global trend? Why did the world adopt this system? The story of sugar is not just about food. It is a story of power, trade, and science. It is a story that explains why our grocery stores look the way they do today. Long ago, sugar was a great mystery. In the year 500, a traveler stood in a field in India. He saw tall green grass waving in the wind. A farmer cut a piece of the stalk. He squeezed it with a heavy stone. A thick, sweet liquid dripped out. The traveler tasted the liquid and smiled. It was like nothing he had ever tried before. At that time, most people use honey to make things sweet. But honey was hard to find. It was expensive and difficult to store. This new grass was different. You could turn the liquid into solid brown crystals. You could carry these crystals in a bag. They did not spoil in the heat. They did not attract as many bees. This was the birth of a global commodity. For centuries, sugar stayed in the East. Traders carried small bags of it along the Silk Road. It was treated like a precious spice. Only kings and queens could afford it. They used it as a medicine or a sign of wealth. In a cold castle in Europe, a cook placed a tiny pinch of sugar into a bowl. He moved slowly because the dust was worth more than silver. The king tasted his food and felt powerful. To the people of that time, sugar was a miracle. It was a rare spark of energy in a world of simple grains and vegetables. But the world was about to change. In the 1400s, ships began to sail across the ocean. Explorers were looking for gold and spices, but they found something else. They found islands with rich soil and warm sun. They realized these places were perfect for growing sugarcane. A captain stood on a beach in the Caribbean. He felt the humid air on his skin. He looked at the vast green forest. He imagined rows of tall grass covering the hills. This was the beginning of the plantation system. This system required a lot of land and a lot of labor. It changed the map of the world forever. Sugar production grew very fast. By the 1700s, it was no longer just for kings. Tea and coffee became popular in European cities. People wanted to make these bitter drinks taste better. They began to put a spoonful of sugar into every cup. A worker in London sat at a wooden table. He drank a cup of hot tea with sugar. He felt a sudden rush of energy. This helped him work long hours in the new factories. Sugar was becoming the fuel of the Industrial Revolution. It provided cheap calories for the working class. This shifted the demand from a luxury to a basic need. As the demand grew, the industry faced a problem. Sugarcane only grows in hot, wet places. It is hard to transport the raw stalks. They must be crushed and boiled quickly. This led to the creation of massive processing centers. Huge stone wheels turned day and night. Steam rose from giant metal pots. The smell of boiling juice filled the air. This was one of the first examples of industrial food production. It was a system built for speed and volume. This system encouraged companies to find cheaper ways to produce sweetness. In the 1800s, scientists made a new discovery. They looked at a common root vegetable called the sugar beet. They found that they could extract the same sweet crystals from it. A scientist in a laboratory held up a glass tube. He saw the white powder at the bottom. This meant sugar could now grow in cold climates. It could grow in Europe and North America. The supply of sugar exploded. Prices dropped quickly. Suddenly, sugar was everywhere. Bakers used it in bread. Cooks used it in meat sauces. It was no longer a special treat. It was becoming a structural part of the food we eat. But why did it move into almost every product? To understand this, we must look at how food is made. In the early 1900s, more people moved into cities. They did not have farms or big kitchens. They needed food that could stay fresh on a shelf. They needed processed food. A factory manager stood in a large room. He watched rows of tin cans moving on a belt. He had a problem. When you process food, it often loses its flavor. It can taste bland or metallic. He needed a way to make the food taste better. He needed a way to make people want more. Sugar was the perfect solution. It does more than just add sweetness. It acts as a preservative. It helps bread rise and stay soft. It gives a golden color to fried snacks. Most importantly, it creates a pleasing feeling in the brain. When we eat sugar, our brains release a chemical called dopamine. This chemical makes us feel happy for a short time. This system encouraged companies to add sugar to products that were not even sweet. They added it to tomato soup. They added it to canned beans. Over time, people became used to this higher level of sweetness. Their expectations for food began to change. In the 1960s and 1970s, another shift happened. Scientists and doctors began to talk about fat. They believed that eating fat led to heart problems. The public became afraid of butter and oil. A shopper in a grocery store looked for low-fat labels. Food companies responded to this fear. They began to remove the fat from their recipes. But there was a new problem. When you remove fat, the food tastes like paper. It has no texture or richness. To fix this, they added more sugar. This replaced the flavor that was lost. This created an interesting situation in the food industry. Products were labeled as healthy because they had no fat, but they were full of hidden sweeteners. A child ate a bowl of low-fat yogurt. He thought he was making a healthy choice, but that small cup had as much sugar as a candy bar. This system led to an increase in sugar consumption across the globe. People were eating more sugar than ever before, but they did not always know it. They were eating it in their healthy breakfast cereals and their natural fruit juices. During this same time, a new kind of sugar appeared. It was called high fructose corn syrup. In the United States, there was a lot of extra corn. Farmers grew more than people could eat. Scientists found a way to turn this corn into a very cheap liquid sugar. A truck drove away from a corn mill. It was filled with thousands of gallons of sweet syrup. This syrup was cheaper than traditional cane sugar. It was easy to mix into sodas and sauces. Because it was so cheap, companies could make bigger portions. They created larger bottles of soda. They made bigger bags of cookies. The low cost of this ingredient changed the size of our meals. Conflict began to grow between different groups. Some researchers started to look at the effects of this new diet. They noticed that people were getting heavier. They saw an increase in diseases like diabetes. In a university office, a professor looked at a chart. He saw a line going up and up. It showed the amount of sugar people ate each year. He began to question if sugar was safe in such large amounts. But other groups disagreed. They argued that sugar was a natural source of energy. They said that people just needed to exercise more. These two ideas fought for many years. The public was often confused. One day, a newspaper said sugar was fine. The next day, a television report said it was dangerous. This confusion allowed the system to stay the same. Companies continued to use many different names for sugar on their labels. This made it hard for a regular person to know how much they were eating. If you see organic cane juice or barley malt, you might not think of sugar, but your body treats them all the same way. The system was designed for shelf life and taste. not necessarily for clarity. A young man sits in a modern cafe. He is eating a power bowl with grains and fruit. He thinks he is avoiding the mistakes of the past, but the dried cranberries are soaked in sugar. The dressing has corn syrup. Even the bread on the side has added honey. He is part of a system that has been building for 200 years. This system is very efficient. It provides a lot of calories to a lot of people for a very low price. But it also shapes our choices in ways we do not always see. Why does this system survive for centuries? It survives because it works for the economy. It keeps food prices low. It allows food to be shipped across the world without spoiling. It creates jobs for millions of people, from the farmer in the field to the scientist in the lab. Many people depend on this cycle. But it also survives because of human biology. Our ancestors lived in a world where food was scarce. When they found something sweet, they ate as much as possible. Their brains told them, "This is good energy. Save it for later." We still have those same brains today. We are living in a world of plenty with a mind built for scarcity. As we look at the history of sugar, we see a pattern. It started as a rare grass in India. It became a luxury for kings. It turned into a fuel for factory workers. Eventually, it became a hidden foundation for the entire food industry. It changed how we farm, how we trade, and how we eat. Today, we are starting to look at this system with new eyes. People are asking for more transparency. Governments are talking about sugar taxes. Some companies are trying to reduce the amount of sweetener in their recipes. But the change is slow. Sugar is deeply woven into our culture. We use it to celebrate. We use it to comfort ourselves. We use it to give us a boost when we're tired. A grandmother bakes cookies for her grandchildren. The smell of sugar and butter fills the kitchen. This is a moment of love and tradition. It is hard to see a system in a warm cookie. This is the power of sugar. It is both a global commodity and a personal memory. We now live in a time of quiet realization. We are learning that our environment shapes our health. If sugar is in 80% of the items in a store, it is very hard to avoid. It is not just about personal willpower. It is about the world we have built. Schools did not only teach us how to read, they also taught us what to eat for lunch. Our offices provide snacks that keep us moving. Our advertisements show us images of happiness linked to sweet drinks. We are all moving through a landscape that was designed long before we were born. The real change comes from understanding. When we know why sugar is in our bread, we can make a different choice. We can look past the bright colors on the package. We can read the labels with a questioning mind. We can recognize that our taste buds have been trained. We can choose to retrain them. A woman stands in the supermarket again. She looks at the pasta sauce. She finds one without added sugar. She feels a small sense of control. This is how the system begins to shift. It starts with one person making one different decision. History shows us that systems do not last forever. They change when our needs change. They change when our knowledge grows. We no longer need sugar to survive a long winter. We no longer need it to fuel a 12-hour shift in a coal mine. We are looking for a new balance. We are looking for food that nourishes us without hiding its true nature. The story of sugar is still being written. We're the ones holding the pen. As you walk through your day, look around. Notice the sweet smells in the air. Notice the labels on your favorite snacks. Think about the long journey those crystals took to get to your table. They traveled across oceans and through centuries of history. They shaped empires and changed the human body. They are a part of our past and our present, but they do not have to define our future. Do you think the food system will change in the next 50 years? Or is our love for sweetness too strong to overcome? History tells us that humans are very good at adapting. We adapted to sugar, and we can adapt to life with less of it. It takes time, and it takes curiosity. It takes a willingness to see the world as it really is, not just as it is sold to us. Write your thoughts in the comments below. Have you noticed hidden sugar in your favorite foods? Sharing your experience helps everyone learn more about this global system. And if this story surprised you, the history of how the 8-hour workday was created may surprise you even more. Understanding these hidden patterns is the first step to living a more conscious life.